how will it be if you can get that joy is actually something you need to work on? Life doesn't work on love and fresh air.
But okay, you got to reach there. You might have to do other things to keep supporting what you're doing. I can find 5 other things to fund before I fund art, and the world needs that. But rarely does something progress exactly as planned. I tend to have a plan B, sometimes a plan C. So the idea is to get the right thing to happen, and sometimes it takes more time than you anticipate. But process can never be 100%. That's why there is variability of outcome, even despite a well thought out process.
So welcome. Today I'm in conversation with Srikanth. Swagat hai aapka.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. My pleasure.
So Srikanth is a person who's a filmmaker who happens to be an entrepreneur, happens to be an investor, also a filmmaker. So what comes first?
In passion, I think filmmaking comes first. I have been in corporate life, entrepreneurial life for a while now. Filmmaking is the most recent. It's a decade old, but it's the most recent. And I think having grown up on cinema, it was always very high on my list of interests.
Things that you wanted to do.
Things I wanted to do, but never act. Always be behind the screen.
Got it.
Sort of write, direct, screenplay, that sort of stuff.
But the kind of films that you're making are possibly not the kind of films that you were watching.
No, definitely not. So that partly comes because my spouse, Savita, who's a classical Indian dancer. I think I came into filmmaking because of the journey we had together, more than anything else. And what started as short dance films are now evolving into, well, we'll get to a feature film someday.
Wonderful. As you began your career as a professional, what did you have in mind when you began your career?
So I began my career in the advertising industry.
Okay.
And my idea of advertising was that, as a 21-year-old, I'll get to meet hot models and have fun advertising, making videos. And it was actually very different from what I thought. It was spending hours in a studio in a very harsh lights, very demanding. After my management trainee program, I actually moved into operations. I've been an operations guy for most of my life. It is also a behind-the-scenes setup, operations, even in corporates or industries. So that's what I had been doing most of my life.
So you had a dream of joining ad films. You had a dream that ad films will be in a particular way. They were not exactly like that, right?
No, not at all. It was very different from what I imagined. And I was a rookie in that. So I didn't get to interact with anybody. I used to bring water on the sets and all that.
Maximum. That was the closest that you came in that. Since then in life, Srikanth, have you seen that life isn't exactly what you expect it to be?
All the time. I think even as we sit here today and, where I'm working on my films, I don't think anything goes perfectly as planned, whether it's a small thing or a big thing. Curveballs come all the time. I think some good, some not so good. But rarely does something progress exactly as planned. I think there are some deviations which happen in life plans. At least that's what I've experienced all my life.
And still, plans are important.
They are, because they give a sense of direction. And then I tend to have a plan B, sometimes a plan C. Most often what happens is a merger of the three. It's rarely that it goes on one and that doesn't work, I go to two. It kind of hybridizes everything, and the solution that comes up is something that is partly planned, partly on the fly, I guess.
So one of the things that I've experienced having worked with you, Srikanth and I have worked together twice, this is the second time, is that I've noticed that you have an ability to deal with things which are not happening according to your plan in a very cool and calm manner. What allows you to do that?
I think patience, which has come to me through my years in operations. Operations is it's a drudgery-filled job as opposed to marketing or sales or any of that, and teaches you patience. So the idea is to get the right thing to happen, and sometimes it takes more time than you anticipate, but getting flustered is not going to hasten the process.
So operations is where the rubber meets the road.
That's correct.
Right? Because operations is where all the planning, all the back end stuff is now coming to fruition. What all happens during operation?
Operations is making a process so that the outcome is predictable as possible. That's a very textbook-like definition
Yes,
of
it
operation.
does sound like that.
I think what it means is that the more thought out your process is, the more predictable the outcome is. But process can never be 100%. That's why there is variability of outcome, even despite a well thought out process.
So a process you would imagine is a process for just that much time for it to evolve into the next one.
Could be, or immediate goalpost which leads to a eventual strategy. It could be those goalposts. Each one of them could have a different operation standard.
So in life, as well as on pointed projects, have you seen the goalpost changing?
All the time, because we think up an end outcome and we think that these are the goalposts that lead to that outcome, and we could sometimes find that those goalposts are all wrong. That's not going to lead you to where you wanted to be in the first place.
So en route, you have found out that the goalposts have.
Changed and have to change, because if you follow the goalposts, you could end up somewhere else, not where you wanted to be in the first place. But getting there is the primary objective. How you get there should be malleable to some extent.
Uh-huh. And even as you're malleable while you're moving in that journey, how important is the calmness or the agitationness in that entire process?
I think I've had people I've worked with who tend to get very agitated and still get the outcome right. In my personal nature, I think agitation takes me away from the process and takes me away from the goal. So I've realized over my life that staying cool is probably a better way of getting there for me.
Got it. In fact, that's something which I've also understood, that what works for you, what works for me, it can be entirely different. And if we can really look at getting some things done and completing it, and what best works is what is the key. And would you also say that behind all of this is the personal joy? That is why we are involved in this journey in the first place.
Absolutely. If the joy is not there, then the process becomes drudgery. Unless there is a joy to reaching where we want to reach, there's no point of going on the journey, is what I think. This is something I've realized over the years. I don't think I was this thoughtful when I started. I think this is something I've picked up on the way. But if on a Monday morning I'm starting to think that why the hell am I going to work, then it's probably time to change that. Yes, I think joy is the reason why we try to reach the place in the first place.
So never to give up on that basic need that I have. A lot of people, Sri, find that even as they say, oh, look, I have to do it to survive. And yet it is not a joyous thing. So what would you say to any person like that?
I think all of us do have a place where you will find joy. I think by saying that I'm forced to do this means you've shut yourself up to other opportunities. It comes sooner or later, but you've got to define what gives you joy first. And I think a lot of people are so caught up in the everydayness of their life, mortgages to pay, children's education, health insurance, and somewhere we lose track of, okay, what used to give me joy, and am I still doing something about it? Maybe it's time to think about that.
Yeah, and one of the things that I also get, that even as I'm engaging in conversations like this, is that point of joy, how will it be if you can get that joy is actually something you need to work on?
It probably will be.
Because some things that we need to do, obviously we need to pay our bills. As you said, that all the responsibilities need to be fulfilled. So imagine it is not what you're doing which is necessarily going to take you to your point of joy. You may have to alter what you're doing to actually go for the joy, and then start doing it. So in your life, you starting off from your wanting to be part of the ad film culture, and then where did your journey take you next?
As I said, I worked for the corporate world for a long part of my life. It was only in about 2010 or so that I turned entrepreneurial. Funded a few firms, sold out of it, made some. I learned the ropes of how and when to invest and when to take out. And I think I was in that journey between 2010 and 2020. I think in 2012 is when we formed our production company. We were on stage shows those days. We didn't do films. And those were mostly classical dance recitals.
Yeah, but here I want to make a very clear distinction. At one end is the money earning arm of yours. that hand of yours.
Right.
The other end is something which is kind of doing something for pure passion.
Pure passion. Correct. Correct.
So very clearly that whatever passion that you follow, it is the money earning part which is also very, very critical, because a lot of people seem to say that, look, I can't fund my passion because just passion, life doesn't work on love and fresh air. So finding ways to earn with happiness, how did that journey happen for you?
Very early on, I know this generation may not have heard or seen the movie, but there was a film called Saturday Night Fever.
SNF with John Travolta doing this. Yeah.
What it was on Saturday nights he transformed to something, and he worked in a paint store for 6 days a week. And somewhere in the movie, it's very clear that he lives those 6 days of paint store salesman, basically because he becomes king on the dance floor on the sixth day or something. And I remember seeing this film with my grandfather, who does not understand disco, leave alone watch an English movie. And I just asked him that if he dances so well, why doesn't he just become a dancer? And he says perhaps he's not reached that level yet. Perhaps he will in the next movie. But in this movie, they're probably showing how he got there. And, he gave some explanation to me, but that stuck to me for a long time. That, okay, you got to reach there. You might have to do other things to keep supporting what you're doing. And strangely enough, Mr. Travolta's role was quite critical in explaining that to me.
And that's very interesting for me, because what I really get in this conversation, and that's the interesting part. So imagine that which you want to really achieve in your life, okay, and you want to turn that into your profession. Consider maybe you got to work on your expertise on that. All right, because let us not take anything for granted. Let us not expect the world to fuel our life.
No, they shouldn't. And several times in our walk of life, my wife and I have been contacted by other budding, very good dancers. I think rather than the way it was pitched to us to finance those projects was that you need to do this for the sake of art. And I think that's a wrong way of going about it. I think I can find 5 other things to fund before I fund art, and the world needs that. I think the way to do this is that you'll have to find avenues of working on that yourself and then fund your projects, which is what we did.
Very, very interesting. So what we are trying to say is that before finding an investor for you, you got to find ways to invest in yourself to make yourself viable. And that's an interesting way, because I personally feel that dreams need to be paid for. Okay.
Yes.
And to fulfill your dreams, you need to pay for it, and you don't have to. You can't count on someone else to come and fund your dreams.
Correct.
So for that, do you think that when you got that my passion lies somewhere else, did it do something to your journey? Did it add some urgency to your other money earning journey or the changes that you were making?
It does, because you've got some exciting project which you want to do, and if that means it has to be funded, then you got to do other things to fund it. I think in the movie world, we find several people.
There's a flight going on, but we can keep talking. No problem.
In the movie world, you find there are people that work on ad films, get money on that, make their own film. I know several very illustrious filmmakers who, including Mr. Kamal Hassan, I think, who's financed several projects by working in other projects where, may not be core to what he does, right? So if there's a dream project, there must be other ways of funding that, whether it's through the corporate, whether it's through investments, whether it's going into side ventures where other people are investing in you. But I think if it's your dream, then you have to be invested. So when I invest in a project by an entrepreneur, that's the first thing I look for. How much of he is inside this?
How much of that person is invested in that project which she or he is inviting you to invest in?
Correct. So if that passion is somehow missing, and if the whole idea is that in 5 years he wants to sell the business and move on, then I think that passion is not there, in which case the objective is wrong. But you find these young people, especially in this city, who've got serious aptitude and attitude that I'm going to build the next big thing. I think that matters to me more than the product.
And I think that's also kind of shows in the kind of work that you do, Sri, because I can see that you have a way of, I wouldn't say a go-getter thing, but I definitely see you somebody who is propelled by a dream of his, and you're finding ways to finance that?
Yes, all the time. I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. All the time.
This is the conversation today. And I'm very happy that you're here because this conversation is part of a series called Billion Dreams. And in Billion Dreams, I want to pick up conversations from amazing people that I get to meet in my life and to share it with the world, because I really believe that if each one of us has a dream, then if that God or Almighty has given us the opportunity to see that dream, there also possibly is a way to fulfill it too. We just need to find it. Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. When you are propelled towards something, the universe comes together for you.
You just need to put in your effort.
Put in your part, the world will get its act together around you.
Fantastic. That is amazing. So let's stay invested in our life. Let's stay invested in our dream. Let's not give up. And remember, he shared something very beautiful. He said that maybe while you're moving on that path, you may seem to be going left, right, or whatever, but that is needed. You need to, because the fact of the matter is nobody can be more passionate about your dream than you. Right?
Absolutely.
So what is the next things that are in the pipeline for you?
I think we have several more projects coming up in our production company. We're currently working on one which you are associated with also. I've got several other ideas of what I've written. I think those will keep us busy at least for the next 3-4 years. Want to make more meaningful films that connect today's Indians with the culture that we have in a way of not being preachy. And sort of, if I have to make them love the subject, I can't tell them that, listen, you have to love the subject. I have to give them reasons to appreciate it and teach them how to appreciate it. And I think that's what I'm attempting to do through my films. I hope to keep doing that in the future with better and better films.
Thank you, Srikanth. Thank you for sharing your vision, because what Srikanth is doing along with his wife Savita is to kind of talk about culture, showcase culture, and showcase it to those who not necessarily will automatically go for it. So here is an evangelist for a cause. And what I love about you is that you're not counting on the world to understand your evangelism. You're saying that it's my business to go out and reach them. So
if they've given me their time, which is, I think, more precious than their money, then I better make it worth it.
Let's make it worth it. Let's make our life worth it. Let's make everything that we have, the opportunity, worth it. Thank you so very much, Srikanth, for joining me in this conversation. Al Shukran Bandhu, Al Shukran Zindagi. If you have liked whatever that you've heard, then please give a like to this video, share this with others, subscribe to our channel, and remember, your comments are valuable. And you want to know more about the work Srikanth and Savita are doing, the link is right there. The YouTube channel is mentioned. And remember, one thing for yourself, your dreams, you can achieve it. Never give up on them. Right?
Absolutely, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Al Shukran, Srikanth. Al Shukran, Zindagi. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप सबका. Fantastic.